Hi, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to NikkoVenture. Today, let me share with you my daily work routine as a certified care worker here in the land of the rising sun. It's important to note, however, that there are different work shifts in a typical Japanese elderly home. In my facility, for example, there are 4 shifts, namely Hayade, Nikkin, Osode, and Yakin. In this video, I'll share with you the work routine of a morning shift, or in Japanese, Hayade. Unfortunately, I would not be able to show you the actual workplace from the inside, but I will, in the best of my ability, show you a clear picture of a morning shift work routine of a caregiver in a special or intensive nursing care facility, or in Japanese, Tokubetsu Yogo Rojin Homu. So without further ado, let's begin. But first, let's define this. In Japanese, it's read as Hayade, or early out. That's because morning shift, at least in my facility, typically starts at around 7 a.m. and ends at around 4 p.m. Some Japanese may tend to use this instead of this. This is read as hayabang, or literally means early shift. Different characters, but the same meaning. Now, assuming you didn't oversleep, the first thing you should do upon arriving in your workplace is to change into your work clothes. It's important to note, however, that not all Japanese companies will provide you with work clothes or company uniforms. In my facility, for example, we were not provided with company uniforms or work clothes. We bring our own work clothes with name tags on it. Then, after you change into your work clothes, you time in. That is, you log your shift in. Don't forget that if you want to be paid. Some companies have this biometric or fingerprint machine. Some, however, like mine, still use the prehistoric pen and paper. After that, you should go to your floor at an absolute minimum of 5 minutes before your shift starts. Company policy regarding this varies. Some strictly follow the 15-minute early rule, while some don't. The bottom line is, do not be late. Once the clock hits 7 a.m., it's time to do your job. The first thing you should do is to wake all the still sleeping residents up, politely. At this time, most of the residents are fully awake, already sitting in their respective seats in the hall. However, there are still 3 or 5 people that are still sleeping. Wake those people up politely and assist them towards the wash area, politely. It is in the wash area that the residents would groom themselves if they're capable. Otherwise, you should help them rinse their mouth, fit their dentures, comb their hair, and the like. After that, straight to their respective seats to wait for their breakfast. While waiting for the food to arrive, you will be distributing warm hand towels to the residents, or in Japanese, oshibori. You will also be disinfecting their hands using moisturizing disinfecting spray. Then, you set their tables. So yeah, when the food arrives, it's the job of the hayabang, or the morning shift caregiver, to check the food or fluids before distributing it to the residents individually. So imagine if you have 30 or more residents, you will be distributing the food from the first person to the 30th person. There will always be a resident who is physically incapable to eat by themselves. In that case, you have to assist that resident or those residents. It may range from 2 persons to 10 persons. It is important to remember, however, that at this time, you will be accompanied by an outgoing night shift staff. He or she is in charge of the morning medicines until the nurse arrives, as well as clearing up leftovers and dishes. You, the hayabang, the morning shift caregiver, is in charge of post-meal oral care and bathroom assistance. After that, together with the outgoing night shift staff, you will have to lay the residents to rest. Lay them to bed. Next, recording. I couldn't emphasize this more. Your shift, regardless whether you're Nikkin, Hayade, Osode, or Yakin, is hectic. Absolutely hectic, in fact, that a slight deviation from your work routine, such as unforeseen accidents, will definitely, inevitably, extend your work hours. And most of the time, those extended work hours will be unpaid. That's why time management is of utmost importance. And if you have time to spare, use it for recording. How you record the events on your shift varies depending on the company policy. But as far as I know, most if not all Japanese elderly homes use computers for recording. In my case, I usually do my recording a maximum of 30 minutes for a minimum of 10 patients. No, 10 residents, not patients. This is not a hospital. I know what you're thinking. 30 minutes for 10 residents? How? I also thought it was impossible at first, but even if you are recording in Japanese, there's actually a pattern on how to make your recording as short and precise as possible. Don't worry, your seniors, likely Japanese, will teach you how. Recording, or in Japanese, kiroku, is a vital part of our job as a care worker. It protects not only the residents, but you, the care worker as well. But don't let it eat at your time. Remember that you're only being paid for 8 hours. Beyond that, even a single minute is unpaid work. You can't apply for an overtime if the reason is poor time management on your behalf. Dedication at work is not measured by how many unpaid hours you give to the company, but how efficiently you provide quality service and still be able to go home on time to rest and prepare for the next day. Japanese tip. As I've said earlier, most nursing homes in this country utilize computers for recording. As a matter of fact, I've been in a facility where the staff uses an iPad, a literal iPad, for recording. It's very convenient because you can bring it with you anywhere in your floor. So if you're planning to come and work here as a care worker, before actually coming here, give yourself a chance to brush up on your computer typing skill. Remember that Microsoft Excel and other applications are programmed in the Japanese language. So if you're not good at typing, it would really be a lot more difficult for you since you will still have to read and think what you're about to type in Japanese. This is not only applicable for foreigners. I've worked with several Japanese who find it difficult to record on a computer, but they're way past their 50s, so they have their excuse, I think. But if you're still young, like me, what's your excuse? So going back, as a morning shift care worker, the bulk of your shift, at least in my workplace, is all about post-meal oral care and bathroom assistance. Normally, residents will have at least a minimum of 3 toilet visits within your shift. However, polyuric residents tend to have more than that. Obviously, typically after assisting the residents to the toilet, you will have your 45-minute lunch break. I'm not really sure about the other facilities, but here in my facility, we have 2 breaks. One long break, at least a 45-minute break, and another short break, a 15-minute, very short break. Unpaid. During your break, the residents will also have their lunch. So upon returning to your floor, it's time for another round of post-meal oral care and bathroom assistance. Yeah, bathroom! Here we go again! As a side note for oral care, some residents are still able to brush their teeth on their own. Otherwise, you have to wrap your finger in a medicated gauze and use it, your finger, to swab the insides of the resident's mouth. Be careful though, because some of these residents still have teeth remaining, real teeth, not dentures, and they may bite your finger off.
Ow! Ow, Charlie! Ow!
After that, if you have time to spare, again, do your recording. If you already did that, go and help your workmates, but only do so if you're 200%, 500% sure that you've already done all your tasks at that time. Then, it's time for the most useful, the most needed short break in your shift, the 15-minute break. After your break, you go back to your floor, obviously. At this time, most of the residents have already had their afternoon snack, or in Japanese, oyatsu. It's the equivalent of the afternoon tea time in Britain and merienda in the Philippines. So yeah, since the residents had already eaten again, it's time for another visit to the bathroom, another bathroom assistance. That's the third and the last time you'll have to assist the resident to the bathroom within your shift. So it's almost 4 p.m. It's almost the end of your shift. You've been in the toilet with some old people for 8 hours. But wait, there's more! Did I forget to mention that there are residents who don't use the toilet? No, I'm not talking about bedridden individuals who use adult diapers. No, I'm talking about the residents who have their own portable toilets inside their respective rooms. And it looks like this. Yes, that's a thing because some residents prefer it that way. They prefer the privacy. So before you go home, put on some gloves, double gloves if you have to, and clean those portable toilets. After that, one final sweep for any unfinished tasks, and you're done for the day. Pack up your things and say, change your clothes and get the hell out of there. So that's it. That's the morning shift or hayade or hayabang in a special or intensive care nursing home. In the last video, we've talked about the morning shift, or in Japanese, hayade. We've learned that the focus of the morning shift, at least in my facility, is toilet assistance and to some degree, some oral care. At the start of the morning shift, or hayade, the hayade will be accompanied by the outgoing night shift staff. However, the night shift staff will not be there with the hayade for the entire day. For the night shift, outgoing staff will still need to sleep. Obviously, don't worry, you'll not be alone. You will be accompanied for the rest of the day by today's topic, the day shift staff. Day shift in Japanese is nikkin. It's formed by these two kanji, which means day and work respectively. The time may vary depending on the facility, but in my facility, in a Tokuyo, day shift starts from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. with 1 hour unpaid break. If the focus area of the morning shift or hayade is toilet assistance, the focus area of the day shift or nikkin is meal assistance. So yeah, this same routine, change into your work clothes, log in your shift, and go to your floor. And upon arriving to your floor, the very first thing you should do as a day shift care worker is to change the elderly's diapers. The focus area of the day shift or nikkin is meal assistance. Yeah, I know I said that, but I also said the word focus. It means your main job, but it doesn't mean you don't need or you don't have to do anything other than your main job for your whole shift. That's just unrealistic. You have to remember that the focus of the morning shift or the hayade is toilet assistance, but they also do oral care and sometimes meal assistance as well. Again, it's important to note that your job as a care worker here in this country revolves around the sandai kaigo, which includes bath assistant, meal assistance, and toilet assistance. That's your job as a care worker, regardless of your shift. Going back, upon arriving at your workplace or at your floor, the very first thing you do is to change the diapers of your residents, but not all of them. That's just impossible. If you have 30 or so residents, you will need the entire day or half of your shift to change all their diapers. You only need to change the diapers of those residents that are included in these two categories. Number 1, these residents are known to have above average urine output. Number 2, they haven't been able to defecate for three or more consecutive days. 3. Category 1 is self-explanatory. Category 2, on the other hand, are those residents that were given laxatives per rectum. If a resident hasn't had any bowel movement for the past 3 consecutive days, they will be given laxatives at 9 in the morning, the literal start of your day shift. However, if a resident still has no bowel movement after laxatives, disimpaction or manual stool extraction is done, or in Japanese, tekiben. Administering laxatives and performing tekiben is done by the nurse on duty. Your job as a day shift care worker is to assist that nurse on duty in performing tekiben and replacing the diapers afterward. It is important to note, however, that at the bare minimum, there are at least 2 day shift care worker staff, at least in my facility. One would change the diapers of the elderly and assist the nurse on duty in performing tekiben. The other one will administer eye medications and prepare refreshments for the elderly. Let's not focus on the eye administration because, quite frankly, it's just a piece of cake. Instead, let's focus on the preparation of refreshments for the elderly, or in Japanese, suibun hokyu, which literally means rehydration or hydration. As a day shift care worker, throughout your shift, you will be preparing the refreshment and food for the elderly 4 times. First is at around 10 a.m. You will only be preparing refreshments at this time. Second is at lunch. Third is during oyatsu or snack time. That's around 3 in the afternoon. Fourth and last is at dinner. But wait! Preparing refreshments is not as simple as pouring tea or juice in a cup and giving it directly to the elderly. No! Remember that we're taking care of old people here, and these old people are at around 80 to 90 years of age. Being that old, a simple sip of a teaspoon of water could mean their death. Literally. Choke hazard is a serious thing when you work as a care worker here in Japan. There is actually a study done about deaths in Japan due to food choking, and I didn't read that. It's too long.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
The bottom line is, there are elderly people here in this country that are dying due to food choking, or in this case, drink choking. And as a care worker, a foreign care worker, you don't want your resident to become one of the statistics in that study. The good news is that Japan has manufactured a product that when mixed with fluid, makes that fluid viscous. It's called toromizai. Toromi is a food term here in this country which means thickness or viscosity. Zai, on the other hand, well, it just means agent or substance. A toromizai looks like this. Yes, it's a powder, and yes, it's white. I don't know about you, but I've never heard of or seen a product similar to toromizai back in the Philippines. Or maybe I've just been living under a rock. Anyway, toromizai, or just toromi, makes the fluid, the refreshment, or the elderly's refreshment viscous. The resulting viscous material allows for a smooth passage through the throat, decreasing the risk of choking or drink choking. So yeah, going back, it's already lunchtime. The food has arrived. As a day shift care worker staff, this is your time to shine. You will assist those elderly who can't eat by themselves, and there are a lot of them, believe me. In my facility, there are at least 10 of these people. And you can't just put food aimlessly in their mouth. No, that would be dangerous. You have to pace it with your elderly. Some are fast eaters, but some are
so slow that it takes centuries to eat a small bowl of porridge.
For those of you who wants to come and work here as a care worker, meal assistance, or in Japanese, shokuji kaijo, is not as easy as you think. It takes practice and skill. You need to have the right knowledge and skill on how to feed a 100-year-old resident who had stroke or a 50-year-old resident having tantrums. You need to know and practice to pace your residents' mealtime unless you want to sit there for over an hour. Remember that it's just lunchtime. Your shift is not done yet. You still have a lot of things to do. After the elderly people had their lunch, it's time for yours. Once your 45-minute break is done, you should go back to your floor. Now, this is the time you will change the diapers of the elderly again. But this time, remember that they had their lunch. Let's just say their shit would pack a little bit of volume this time. As a care worker here in Japan, you will see and smell many unpleasant things from their bottoms. I guarantee that. If you have a weak fortitude when it comes to shit, at work, don't bring or eat food that looks like shit. It's just as simple as that. After changing their diapers, it's time for you to prepare the refreshments for their oyatsu or afternoon snacks. By the way, their oyatsu looks like this. Wow! Now it's already 4 p.m. and the last time you changed the diapers was at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So yeah, this time at 4 p.m., another round for changing the diapers. While the other one will administer eye medications. Since dinner is just an hour away, I usually use this time to help other staff with their tasks and of course, do my recording. Don't forget your recording. Don't get overwhelmed by the amount of shit you see during your shift. At dinner time, same routine. Prepare refreshments, check and distribute food, and of course, meal assistance. Since there are a lot of elderly that needs meal assistance, the time between dinner and the end of your shift will most likely focus on meal assistance alone. During this time, the day shift care worker will be accompanied by at least 2 incoming night shift staff and 1 afternoon shift care worker staff, at least in my facility. When it's already 6 p.m., one final check for any unfinished tasks, and you're done for the day. Pack your things up, say, change your clothes, of course, and get the hell out of there. So that's it. That's day shift, or in Japanese, Nikken, which starts from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Last time, we've talked about the morning and day shifts and their focus areas. While the morning shift starts from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and day shift starts from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Today's topic is from 12 noon to 9 p.m. where you literally see your day pass by while you're at work. Let's talk about the afternoon shift. Afternoon shift in Japanese is osobang, but most people here in this country usually use osode. So yeah, after you get yourself prepared for the shift, the first thing you do is to check the list of residents who will be having their baths for that day. That's because the focus area of an afternoon shift or an osode care worker is bath assistants, or in Japanese, New Yokukaijo. New Yokukaijo can be defined as assistance given to those individuals who are physically incapable of bathing themselves. Now, this bath assistance may range from preparing the needed items for the resident's bath to literally washing the resident's body with your hands. Of course, you need to use gloves when you do so. It's important to note, however, that the residents of a Tokubetsu Yogo Rojin Homu, or in English, Special Care Elderly Home, only takes a bath twice a week. Yes, twice a week. That's because in a traditional large Tokuyo, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of residents. The residents of a large traditional type Tokuyo may easily reach 100 persons. To give you an image, in my facility for example, there are around 80 residents. With that huge number of people, you can't expect to bathe them all in one day. That would be exhausting for your part, the care worker. As such, it is reasonable to divide them into groups and assign days for them as their bath day. So for example, for 80 residents, 20 people will be assigned for Monday and Sundays as their bath days. Another 20 will be assigned for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The remaining people will be assigned for the remaining days of the week. Preparation. As the afternoon shift care worker, aside from checking the list of people who will be having their bath for that day, you also have to prepare their clothes and make sure it is applicable with Japan's current season. You don't want to wear short-sleeved shirt during winter, right? The same goes with the residents. Of course, preparing the actual bathroom, or in Japanese, ofuro, is also a must. Before the actual bath, you will have a 30-minute break, a short period of respite before the heavy lifting inside a wet, hot, and sealed room for 4 straight hours. After your break, you will have to change into your bath clothes. It's just a simple dark-colored shirt and shorts. Don't use a white shirt. Remember that it is hot and humid and wet inside the ofuro. As such, there's a huge possibility that you will get yourself wet. Wearing wet white clothing inside an ofuro will expose the ofuro. A Japanese ofuro typically has 2 sections. First is the bathroom proper, where the residents will have their bath. Second is the changing room, or in Japanese, datsui shitsu. It's in the datsui shitsu where you will have to do these 4 things. You'll assist the residents to change their clothes before and after taking a bath, dry their hair if needed with a blower, apply medicinal ointments and poultices, and cut their nails. If you're assigned inside the datsui shitsu, you will have to do these 4 things, and generally you will stay dry for the entire day. On the other hand, if you're assigned inside the bath area, well, expect to get wet. Don't worry though, you will be provided with an apron, a set of gloves, and a small towel. The apron and gloves are there to protect you from any unwanted fecal materials, while the small towel will be your main tool for washing/scrubbing the resident's body with soap. The residents. There are 3 classifications of an elderly or resident inside an ofuro, as far as I know that is. First are the physically able elderly. These are those residents who are still ambulatory. Their need for bath assistance ranges from 1 to none. Basically, you'll just have to assist them in scrubbing unreachable areas like their backs, as well as escort them within the bath area to avoid accidents. Second is the handicapped elderly. These are those residents who spend most of their waking hours sitting in a wheelchair, either due to senility or paralysis. These people need a caregiver's 100% attention and assistance. Because these individuals are still able to sit, they ambulate within the bath area using these bath chairs. The third is the bedridden elderly. These are those residents who can't sit and stand on their own. They spend most of their waking hours supine. They ambulate within an ofuro through a stretcher. The machines. No, not those machines. No. The first category of residents uses the traditional Japanese ofuro. However, the second and third categories of residents use machines that emulate traditional ofuro. This machine is for the handicapped, while this one is for the bedridden. Because these are machines, safety is a must not only for the resident but also for the care worker. There are cases here in this country that a resident suffered burns because he or she was left inside the machine for an extended period of time. High-tech? Some companies provide lifts or machines which ease the burden of having to manually carry a resident from a wheelchair to a bath chair, from a bed to a stretcher, vice versa, several times for long hours. Let me say that again. Lifts are provided by some companies. I was able to work in a facility where mechanical lifts are provided inside their ofuro. At that time, I really didn't appreciate the comfort and relief those lifts provided whenever I was the afternoon shift care worker. Now, I miss those lifts.
Why?
Because most, if not all, elderly homes in this country doesn't provide lifts or machines to help in lifting their residents, and that includes my current workplace. And when I say machines, I'm not talking about electric-powered high-tech machines. No, I'm talking about simple hydraulic and even pulley system lifts. Most facilities here in this country, including mine, still stick to the traditional old way of caregiving, where the caregiver lifts the residents, those residents, all 80 of them, during their bath. And that will take a toll on your body, especially your lower back. No amount of proper body mechanics will help you if almost every day you lift 50 people or more that weighs 50 kilograms or more. I know what you're thinking, but a machine have a higher risk of accidents. Yes, but a tired and in pain human being doesn't have that risk? I don't think so. Yes, not everything in this country is high-tech, and that includes your job as a care worker. Japanese tip. Have you ever been inside a sauna or a Japanese onsen? It's hot, isn't it? A Japanese ofuro is just like that, but unlike a sauna or an onsen where you can get out anytime you want, inside an ofuro within a Japanese elderly home, you can't. Well, technically you can, but since it's your job to bathe all those residents waiting inside the ofuro, you don't have a choice but to be inside the ofuro for several hours. As such, you will sweat and dehydration will be a serious risk, especially during the summer months in this country. Bring fluids inside the ofuro and don't be afraid to rehydrate. A few seconds of rest to get that sip of water would keep you from visiting a hospital anytime soon. As I've said earlier, bath assistance, at least in my facility, runs for around 4 hours. After all the residents scheduled for bath that day are bathed, it's time to do aftercare. All, and I mean all, including clothing, rugs, towels, etc., goes all to the laundry. The people there will wash and dry those for you. However, if you're working within a small facility or a small Japanese elderly home, there is a possibility that the afternoon shift care worker will also have to wash and dry the clothes of the residents, rugs, towels, etc. After finishing the aftercare, it's time for your well-earned 30-minute break. Then back to the floor. At this time, most of the residents would have had their dinner already. As such, it's time for the bathroom assistance and diaper change. Bathroom assistants at this time are for those residents who are in a wheelchair but can still stand. Those who can't go straight to their beds where you change their diapers. Next, you'll have to throw that day's garbage, all of it, to the collection point, which is usually located within the facility's premises. It's important to note, however, that during this time, you will be accompanied by 2 night shift staff, at least in my facility. So when it's already 9 p.m., one final check for any unfinished tasks, and you're done for the day. Pack up your things and say, change your clothes and get the hell out of there. So that's it. That's the afternoon shift care worker, or in Japanese, osode, or osobang, which starts from 12 noon to 9 in the evening. So far, we've covered 3 out of 4 work shifts a typical care worker has in a typical Japanese special care elderly home. The morning shift, which starts from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., makes sure your granddad or grandmom regularly visits the toilet. The day shift, which starts from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., makes sure they eat well and on time. The afternoon shift from 12 noon to 9 p.m. will assist them in taking their bath. Today's topic, the night shift, will make sure your granddad or grandmom is still breathing. The night shift, or in Japanese, yakin, starts from 5 p.m. to 10 a.m. the following day. Yes, here in Japan, if you're the night shift staff, at least in a Japanese elderly home, you will have to work for 16 hours from sunset to way past sunrise. Endorsement. So the first thing a night shift care worker will do upon the start of his or her shift is endorsement, or in Japanese, moshiokuri. During this time, during moshiokuri, you will be accompanied by that day's, or in this case, that night's fellow night shift staff. It is during this time, which may last for at least 15 minutes, that pertinent information are endorsed or handed over by the outgoing staff to the incoming staff. You, the night shift. The endorsed information may include but is not limited to the status of terminally ill residents, incoming and outgoing residents, and vital signs. All, and I mean all, care workers are encouraged to attend or perform moshiokuri whenever their shift requires them to do so. And that includes you, the foreign care worker. And yes, endorsement notes are all written in Japanese. After moshiokuri, you will have to report to your respective floors. At this time, dinner would have already arrived. Now, it's important to remember that there are at least 3 night shift staff, at least in my facility. The first one will be in charge of meal assistance, dinner. The second one will be in charge of that night's medicines, while the third one is a bit of both. After dinner, it's time for that night's first round of diaper change. It's important to note, however, that at this time, the afternoon staff is still on the floor, so changing the residents' diapers will be divided between you and the afternoon staff. After that, it's time for your 45-minute break. But wait, since there will only be at least 3 night shift staff during the entire night, taking breaks and naps are done in a switching manner. That is, if one takes his or her break, another one will take that person's place for 45 minutes, or if it's nap time, for 2.5 hours. So on and so forth until all 3 night shift staff will have their 45-minute break. Dead or alive. While it's true that the duty of a night shift staff would include the sandai kaigo, the focus area of a yakin staff is the anpi kakunin, which can be roughly translated to the ascertainment of someone's safety. That is, the yakin staff, or you, the night shift care worker staff, will make sure that the residents, all 80 of them, are still breathing, or in this case, because it's nighttime, are all snoring. There are cases here that a resident, while still alive and kicking during dinner up until their bedtime, were found not kicking in the morning, either due to myocardial infarction, stroke, or it's just their time. So, to make sure a proper and quick response is done whenever a resident is having a stroke or a heart attack, the first thing a night shift staff do after their break is to have their rounds, or in Japanese, junkai. Junkai is very vital because it's at this time that you can check each resident's status. During this time, you may find a resident who has fallen off their bed or may have suffocated on their saliva or sputum. You may find a resident or residents that are still awake and are roaming the hall.
Ma'am, it's all right. Is there anybody else in the apartment with you? Any more animals? All right, just calm down.
When there's nothing unusual, junkai is often followed by recording and that night's second round of diaper change. It's important to take note that at this time, all the residents are asleep and leading them towards the toilet is both time-consuming and impractical. And since the afternoon staff had already left the floor ages ago, it's the job of the yakin staff or the night shift care worker to change all the diapers of the residents alone. Where's the nurse? If you're planning to come here or work here as a care worker, it is important for you to know that not all Japanese elderly homes has a night shift nurse on duty. Japanese law doesn't require all elderly homes or most elderly homes to have a night shift nurse on duty. Why? I actually sift through a lot of Japanese caregiving related articles and found out that the Japanese law only states that nurses are, at least in some elderly facilities, are not required to be on night duty. However, the rationale was left frustratingly unwritten. So I went to some Japanese blogs and found an interesting one. Mr. Private ID here asked the same questions we have. Why there are no nurse on duty at night, especially in a Tokyo? He was answered by this man, Mr. TMO asterisk to the power of 6. Basically, his reasoning is that at nighttime, the only things you do are to change the diapers, vital signs if needed, and anpikakunin. These things can be done by a caregiver alone. A nurse is not needed to do these things, he said or typed. There are no medicines given at this time, and simple medical procedures like sputum suctioning are done by a trained care worker. The only time a nurse is needed at night is when accidents occur, like falls or in some cases, the death of a resident. Personally, I agree with Mr. TMO asterisk to the power of 6 on this one. Your job as a night shift care worker, at least in my facility, revolves around changing the residents' diapers and anpikakunin. Well, there are some minor paperwork, but the bottom line is the things you do during night shift don't require a nurse's help. Unless there's an emergency, at that time, you should call the nurse. The nurse will give you instructions how to deal with that emergency in Japanese. Or in some cases, a doctor will be called on site. Nap time. I don't know about the other facilities, but here in my facility, a night shift care worker or a night shift caregiver is given 2.5 hours of nap, or in Japanese, kamin. It is important to note, however, that while the 1 hour break on your shift is unpaid, kamin is paid. With that reasoning alone, if there's an emergency, whether you're in the middle of your sweet nap, you are obliged to wake up and assist your fellow night shift staff.
So I strongly suggest that you wake the fuck up.
Otherwise, you should take some rest. Remember that you've already used your 45-minute break and your shift is far from over. You need whatever strength you still have for the rest of your day. That's because after your nap, it's time for junkai, recording, and that shift's third round of diaper change. Of course, you still have to wake all the residents after these tasks are done. You will do these until breakfast arrives. At around 7 a.m., the morning shift care worker would have arrived and he or she will be a welcomed assistance for the rest of your shift. After the residents have eaten their meal, let the morning shift worry about oral care and bathroom assistance. You, the night shift staff, will have to clear the dishes and leftovers as well as lay the residents to bed. Then you proceed to clean the residents' portable toilets. After that, go and get some needed 15-minute break. Next, endorsement. I've been doing night shifts for several months already, and I've been doing endorsements for quite some time as well. If you're planning to come and work here as a care worker, let me tell you one thing. When you're the night shift staff scheduled to do the morning endorsement, make use of your break to read the endorsement notes in advance. If there's a character you don't understand, you can either ask your Japanese staff to teach it to you or use your phone. Use your phone. Do that before the endorsement proper. By doing so, you and the rest of your incoming care workers and nurses will have a smooth, stress-free endorsement. And you can avoid infuriating a staff who didn't have their breakfast. Remember that. They are inconsiderate people here. So yeah, most of the time after the morning endorsement, your shift also ends. That's around 10 in the morning. So you know the drill? One final check for any unfinished tasks and you're done for the day. Pack up your things and say, change your clothes and get the hell out of there. I hope you've learned something from this video, especially those who plans to come and work here as a care worker. Remember that even if you are working or you are planning to work in a facility aside from Tokyo, the work shift or the work routine is somewhat similar. Please don't forget to leave a like, share this video with a friend, and of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It would really help the channel a lot. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Babush! The morning shift, which starts from 12. Wala akong tingog. Furthermore, the night shift staff has already went out. I've been doing night shifts for several months already and been doing. There will be called on spot, on site. Ano ko nag-spot? Why there are no NARS?